The country's currency started appreciating against major trading currencies in the last few days. The cedi, which was sold for some 4.3 cedis to the dollar in June, is now selling at 3 cedis 3 pesos as of today. As analysts welcome the idea as good signals to attract investors and boost businesses, they are also not sure of the country maintaining the trend over the long term. Bank of Ghana began pumping $20 million weekly into the currency market, resulting in a remarkable recovery over the last couple of weeks.
The idea for government is not to take the exchange rate to any particular level, but to keep it stabilized. So at this point, it must be market driven. These things should not be forced. I can give you my personal guess. I think that the market will stabilize somewhere between 3.5 to 3.6.
But how sustainable is this? Can the Bank of Ghana continue with this trend? And if they can, how far can the cedi appreciate to be able to bring businesses back on track? This is today's big story with me, Aishi Bryan. Now, the first 5 months of this year saw a speedy depreciation in value of the local currency. This negatively affected economic activities in the country, increasing the prices of goods and services. Now, the central bank is now pumping $20 million weekly into the currency market, resulting in a remarkable recovery over the last couple of weeks. But analysts are worried the Bank of Ghana can only sustain this for a short time. Now, we will be gauging the mood of some economists and currency analysts and also speak with the Ministry of Finance on this issue. But now let's get onto the phone lines and speak with an economist, John Gachi. Good evening. Very grateful for your time on today's big story. We lost John Gachi there. We'll be trying to get him back online. We'll also try to get a currency analyst. I'm told Kofi Ampa is on the line. He's a currency analyst. Good evening. Many thanks for your time on today's big story. Hello, Mr. Ampa.
Yes, hello.
Good evening. We appreciate your time on today's big story.
Yes, thank you very much.
Now, you earlier this year predicted the dollar could exchange at the rate as high as 9 cedis or so per dollar. With this trend now, do you still stand by this prediction?
You said I predicted what?
You predicted that the dollar or the cedi could exchange the dollar at 9 cedis or so earlier this year. Do you still stand by this prediction with this trend?
Well, I don't recall predicting that the cedi will exchange the dollar at 9 cedis.
You will enjoy news.
9 cedis? No, I never would have predicted such a huge exchange rate. Right. But however, we were all of the view that the cedi will lose significantly, and we're looking at ending the year at 5 cedis to a dollar. Looking at the trend in which the cedi was rapidly losing value in the second quarter of this year. However, I guess we all have seen exactly what is happening. The central bank has clearly come out to save the value of the currency by, first of all, injecting some $20 million into the economy, and also giving the business confidence and the consumer confidence back into the country to be able to save the city. So I think that, first of all, my projections were not nice.
Well, you're skeptical about the Bank of Ghana's ability to sustain the pumping of $20 million into the currency market every week. Your reasons?
Well, Yes, I guess what the Bank of Ghana is doing, I did not get your question right. If you can repeat it, I didn't hear it.
You said that this can only be sustained in a short term. You're not
Right.
sure if they can continue for a long term, and I'm asking your reasons.
You know, the reason why I said it's short term was basically, indeed, the central bank actually attested to the fact that what they are doing is a short-term measure because of the high level of position that the currency was facing against the dollar. So it's actually, it confirms everybody's expectation as to the policy direction of saving the currency. And indeed, you can't float $20 million a day for the long term. You can't. I mean, it's not possible. Even when the European Bank started to do the QE, it had a limit to do the QE for the European community. So clearly, looking at our reserve strength, the central bank cannot continue to do flotation of $20 million a day. And therefore, this could serve as one of the short-term measures that the central bank could apply. But looking at sustaining this, it means that the central bank or the government should look at what we've been talking about as in changing the structure of the economy, moving from an import-led economy and, reducing the level of imports into our country. This one drives really what happens with the dollar and the cedi, the demand and supply bit of it.
Well, Ms. Ampa, let me hold you on. Let me hold you on the other line, and because economist John Gache is on the other line, let me engage him. Good evening, Mr. John Gache. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Good evening.
So, what does the appreciation of the cedi against major currencies mean to our economy?
Well, it only means that there is some relief to the business community. And if this is done for some few more weeks, it should contribute to the price development in the country, and that will spread into every aspect of the economy that is hugely affected by depreciation. And that is what it means to the economic management of the country.
Bank of Ghana is now pumping $20 million weekly into the currency market. How sustainable is this?
I think we shouldn't be talking about the sustainability of the that release of the money, but I think the sustainability should be directed to a stable currency, a predictable currency henceforth, because it is very clear that the Bank of Ghana cannot pump 20 million a week for the rest of the months in the year. That is not the target. The target is to provide some intervention to the currency so that the expectation of further release by the IMF, expectation for the positive review of the first aspect of the IMF program, which is expected to trigger some inflows into the country through the donor support and other inflows that are expected into the country, will further shore up the foreign currency supply position of the country, while the central bank continues to deal with the issue of excessive speculation in the currency market. So I think those are the areas that I want to concentrate on, because it is very clear that that intervention of injecting 20 million per week is only up to a certain level. So the sustainability of that is not supposed to be my concentration.
Okay, I'll have you hold 1 minute and speak to Mr. Ampa on the other line. Mr. Ampa, so now that the cedis are appreciating, it's obvious everyone wants it to continue. We don't wish it come down. So how can we continue, or what can we do to allow the currency to continue in this space?
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Ampa. I was saying that once the appreciation has started, obviously we wish it stays. So what can we do to keep the pace if we think we cannot sustain the pumping of $20 million a week? What else can we do to make it appreciate at this pace?
Like Dr. Gachi rightly said, what clearly is important is to be able to hold out the speculative aspect of us, to be ensure that the central bank could do exactly what it needs to do to have this appreciation of the currency, really have the business confidence back, because that's basically what most businesses in the economy need now, and continue to be able to, give reason for the city to hold value. Now, clearly, as we've all been saying, that the sustainability could be one of the key questions that a lot more businesses are looking at. But for the time being, we could see that most projections being made towards the year looks at the regions which could be much more comfortable for most businesses. Because if you look at what the city was recording or was exchanging between the dollar, even in the pound and the euro, which we hardly talk about, because it was very, very hard. The businesses could not really support or could not sustain, the pressure from even for the pound and the euro currency. So what I believe we could do is to clearly support the Bank of Ghana to be able to stem up the speculative activities that happen to really help the currencies to hold at its value.
Well, you want to make some speculations. You think we can continue this way? It used to be 4 Cedi 30 pesos worth, now 3 Cedi 30 pesos worth. How far can we go?
We think that the city will end the year within the regions of 3 Cedi 50 pesos worth. Looking at the inflows that are expected, looking at the policy direction of the Bank of Ghana, and looking at how the fiscal side is also attempting to hold up to be much more prudent. We think that we could be able to hold the currency at 3.5 by close of year. We do not expect, because the IMF is critically looking at achieving this feat. They are in the country at the moment, and of course everybody is expecting the IMF to be able to support this country to be able to reap back the successes that it wants to achieve. So clearly it is a policy direction, and we know that we could be able to sustain it and end the year at 3.5, 3, +1, +2, -2. So definitely we'll not end the year at the rate that we experienced in the last few weeks.
Well, many businesses have also collapsed and others in the process of folding up. How can businesses take advantage of this and get back on their feet?
It's unfortunate, but I guess for those of it's unfortunate. I don't think that it is the city that could have generated most of these businesses to collapse. There are other factors that could have facilitated the collapse of some of these businesses. If you look at the energy problems that we have as a country, it's one of the key factors that is really affecting businesses. And I guess it is incumbent of government to really help these businesses to resuscitate, to get back to business. So the currency could not be one of the factors. If you look at what most of the businesses do, they had to do to divert from using, especially the spare parts people, they had to quickly divert from using the US dollar, as a medium of exchange for their goods, and then change to the naira, so they could go to Nigeria to buy whatever they needed to be able to stay in business. So businesses were smart to respond to the high level of depreciation of the currency. But however, I think that other factors were also contributed to some of these businesses. Well, that's not exactly the city.
Well,
and dollar depreciation. Yeah.
Many thanks to you, Mr. Samuel Kofi Ampa. We really appreciate your time on today's big story. Back to the other phone line where Mr. John Gachi is. Mr. Gachi, one of the things that the fall of the city has done is to increase the prices of goods and services. So does it mean that as it has started appreciating, we're going to see some review in prices of goods and services?
And there is too much noise coming from your end.
Well, let me try and speak up a bit. I'm not sure where the noise is coming from. I'm saying that goods and services have gone up because of the fall of the Cedi. And so as it begins to appreciate, are we expecting some review in prices of goods and services?
That would take some time. We have what we call the pass-through effect of this development in economic indicators. So it will take some time for that to pass through the economic system. So if it is sustained for some time, that will have the first influence is that it will have a downward trend in inflation, because a greater portion of inflation that we have recorded over the past month was as a result of depreciation. So if the currency is now recovering, then the input from depreciation will also be limited, and thereby providing space for downward trend in inflation. And it is then that we will be expecting the overall effect on prices. But for now, I do not expect immediate response in terms of downward prices.
But generally, businesses have suffered as a result of this depreciation of the Cedi. So what does this appreciation mean to businesses?
Well, appreciation means that any business that want to engage in the use of dollar for any transaction will actually operate more comfortable than they used to operate 2 weeks ago. It provides more space for businesses to enhance their transaction. That is what it provides now. But I believe businesses are more interested in what will happen from now up to the next month, up to the next quarter. That is what I think the managers of the economy, through their information management, should indicate to business communities as to what they should be expecting, whether we are going to be in position to hover around 3.3 Ghana cedis to $1 region for the rest of the month to come. I think that is what will be most significant for businesses.
So how long can the Cedi continue to appreciate, and at what point will it stabilize?
Well, it depends on the development in terms of the supply of foreign currency and the demand thereof. So if the demand continues to be below the supply, then the Cedi will continue to appreciate somehow. But we must also look at what is developing in external environment. That will also contribute to as to whether the Cedi will have the capacity to continue to appreciate. By looking at the historical trend of the currency is a depreciating currency. All that we are expecting now, we want some appreciation to settle at a reasonable or a comfortable exchange rate. Then from there on, we expect the currency to oscillate around that comfortable exchange rate. That is the expectation of the economy.
Right. So let's look at predictions, because we were at 4.3 and now 3.3, and it's still appreciating. So it's either it goes down or up. You want to make some predictions?
No, I do not want to make predictions. I only want to talk about what is the expectation of the economy. In fact, even if the appreciation stops at 3.3 as we have it today, and then thereafter the Cedi oscillates around 3.3, maybe in some day it goes to 3.325, it goes to 3.4 and come back to 3.3. That is what the business environment wants, so that everybody can have a predictable currency within a particular comfortable exchange rate. We are not interested in the Cedi moving to 4.3. Then after 2 months, it jumped down to 3.3. That is not what the business environment wants. Predictability around a certain stable exchange rate. That's what I think the business environment will be comfortable with.
You have said that you don't really want us to jump around the Bank of Ghana pushing $20 million a week, but you want us to look at other factors. What would you recommend to government so that we can actually get to this stability we are expecting?
Well, I have been of the opinion that speculation is the bane of the currency. because over the past 30 years, we have all agreed that the cedi is a depreciating currency and we are import-led economy. But the cedi has not been depreciating the way we have seen in some specific periods. So those specific periods that you see the cedi depreciating significantly, it means some other factor rather than import is the cost. And that factor for me is excessive speculation and misuse of the currency against the currency laws of the country. And that is what I think we should be focusing on seriously. Look, if you look at the energy crisis and the other problem that we have in the economy from last year up to date, import has gone down. So why is it that we are still having depreciation if it is the problem of import alone?
Right.
Even though managing imports and exports in the long term will sustain the currency, but you cannot tell me that it's import that is causing this excessive depreciation that we are facing when imports has actually gone down. So for me, the problem is excessive speculation and the inability of the Bank of Ghana and the law enforcement agency to deal with speculation.
Well, many thanks to you, Mr. John Gachi. He is an economist. We're extremely grateful for your time on today's big story. Over the other phone line is Derek Mensah. He is a currency analyst, and he's been looking at how the Ghana Union of Traders Association can gain from this appreciation. Good evening, and we appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Yes, let's look at how traders can benefit from this appreciation.
Well, generally, traders have a different mechanism when it comes to pricing compared to the likes of the bulk oil distributors or that pricing formula that allows automatic adjustments whenever the exchange rate remains quite volatile like it is now. So I do not think that general services or goods price of general services and goods are going to have that kind of knock-off effect that the currency has impacted in the petroleum sector. There's a lot of slowdown in re-rating when it comes to markets like this for importers of goods and services. So I don't think that we are going to see that immediate impact in terms of prices going down as we have witnessed in the petroleum sector. So it's not something that's going to be positive in the immediate term for people in that sector.
What the consumer is concerned about is the fact that, well, how do I feel this impact? If I'm going to buy something, it should be cheaper. And so if in the short term, we cannot see that on prices of goods and services, so then what is in here for consumers?
Well, what you also need to consider is that when the dollar started rallying, or when the cedi started weakening a couple of months back, it took a while for these prices to reflect in general services and goods, in the prices of general services and goods as well.
Right.
The same is going to happen with this depreciation that we are going to see. If the depreciation is sustainable, or even at the current level, we've seen over about 15% appreciation in the cedi. If that is supposed to hold over the next month or two, I'm sure that we are likely to see certain services re-rate or reprice as such. Generally, in Ghana, you do not have prices of goods coming down whenever, even when the cedi appreciates or when things stabilize. They often remain where they are. It's become our culture, it's become our way of pricing. So that I do not expect that level of re-rating or repricing in those goods. But in areas such as like hotel services and services that are pegged to the currency, I believe that when the exchange rate holds steady for a little while, you'll see that a lot of them will start re-rating or repricing, and that should affect general consumers.
So what should be the expectation? How long would it take, or how long should we expect this to reflect?
What you putting a cap or a timeline on this will not be conducive, or will not be. It's more like looking into a crystal ball and just predicting something out of the blue moon. we have to look at is how long the stability will last. Because if you're even taking it over to consumers like FCMPs, like Liver and PZ Customs, they have imported and they a lot of raw materials at the time when prices were at 4.5 and whatnot. They have also have certain hedging instruments in place already at certain prices or at certain exchange rates that may be far exceeding what we are experiencing now. So all of those goods need to move out of the system. The currency needs to stabilize for a while longer, probably even in excess of 2 to 3 months for that re-rating to take effect before we are likely to see those consumer prices reprice or come down from their current level.
Well, many thanks to you, Derek Mensah. We appreciate your time on today's big story. We've been talking about the Cedi. We used to be 4 Cedi 30 pesos, now 3 Cedi 30 pesos, and the Bank of Ghana and Ministry of Finance is telling us it will continue to appreciate till about 3.5 or 3 Cedi 50 pesos when they're sure it will stabilize. We've been speaking with some economists and currency analysts there, and I think they're all predicting the same. This is today's big story. My name is Aisha. We'll be back with Joy News Interact.